The gravity chamber doors shouldn't have been open. Lieutenant Kayla Voss stopped mid-stride in the observation corridor of the Imperial Dreadnought Eternal Mandate, her hand instinctively moving to her sidearm. The red warning lights above Chamber 7 pulsed in rhythm with her accelerating heartbeat. 5 times Earth standard gravity. Lethal to most species, dangerous even to the Threxian warriors who built this ship. Through the reinforced viewport, she saw her. A human. Female. Young. Moving through forms that looked like combat training, each motion deliberate despite the crushing weight that should have flattened her bones into powder. Sweat darkened her gray training suit, plastered her dark hair to her scalp. But she didn't stop. Didn't slow. Her fists cut through air made thick as water by the gravitational force. Kayla's communicator chirped.
"Lieutenant, the Queen approaches your section. Honor guard formation required in..."
Protocol demanded she report the unauthorized chamber access immediately. Protocol demanded she sound the alarm, but something held her finger over the emergency button without pressing it. The human dropped into a crouch, muscles trembling. For a moment, Kayla thought she'd finally reached her limit. Then the woman exploded upward in a jump that barely cleared 6 inches. But in 5 times gravity, that 6 inches represented a feat that would shame most soldiers in standard conditions. The human landed hard, stumbled, caught herself on one knee, didn't quit. "Ancestors preserve me," Kayla whispered. She'd seen humans before. Soft creatures, the intelligence report said. Fragile. Their planet was a paradise of gentle gravity and breathable air. They broke easily. Bruised from impacts that wouldn't faze a Threxian child. Their diplomatic corps wore environmental suits and requested special quarters with Earth-standard conditions. This one wore nothing but soaked fabric and determination. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. Heavy. Measured. Kayla's spine straightened automatically. She knew those footsteps the way a prey animal knows a predator's breathing pattern. Queen Girasol turned the corner with 4 members of her personal guard. Each warrior stood 8 feet tall, their chitinous armor gleaming like polished obsidian. The queen herself topped 9 feet, her crown of bone-white spines adding another foot to her already imposing height. 3 eyes swept the corridor with the efficiency of someone who'd commanded fleets before Kayla's grandfather was born. Kayla saluted fist to chest. "Your Majesty." Girasol didn't acknowledge her. The queen's gaze had fixed on the viewport, on the impossible scene beyond the reinforced glass. The human was running now. If the stumbling, grinding effort could be called running, each step looked like it cost everything she had. The chamber's readout confirmed what Kayla's instruments showed. 5.2 Earth gravities, fatal territory.
"How long?"
The queen's voice carried harmonics that could shatter lesser minds. Kayla checked her wrist display. 43 minutes, Your Majesty." One of the guards shifted, mandibles clicking in disbelief. "Impossible. Humans cannot..." "Silence." Girasol didn't raise her voice. She never needed to. The guard went rigid as stone. The queen stepped closer to the viewport. Her reflection merged with the human's image, creating a ghostly overlay of predator and prey, ancient conqueror and fragile newcomer. The human's legs gave out. She hit the chamber floor with an impact that Kayla felt through the station's bones. For 10 seconds, she lay motionless. Kayla's hand moved toward the emergency release. The human's fingers curled into fists. Slowly, shaking with effort that bordered on seizure, she pushed herself up, first to her knees, then, impossibly, to her feet. "Your Majesty, perhaps we should..." "What is her name?" Girasol interrupted, her center eye never leaving the viewport. Kayla accessed the station manifest. Sarah Chen, Junior Cultural Attaché. 24 Earth years. Assigned to the human delegation 3 months ago. Not listed as military? "No, Your Majesty. Civilian specialist in xenolinguistics." The queen's head tilted, a gesture that in Threxian body language indicated intense interest or imminent violence. Sometimes both. Sarah Chen attempted another jump. This one failed halfway through, her body refusing commands her will still screamed. She crashed down, rolled, came up bleeding from a split lip. The blood looked shockingly red against the gray floor. "She will die if she continues," one of the guards observed. "Perhaps," Girasol said. "Or perhaps everything we know about humans is a carefully constructed lie." Kayla's blood chilled. The Threxian Empire had conquered 47 species. They'd done it by knowing their enemies better than those enemies knew themselves. If the intelligence on humanity was wrong, if this wasn't an anomaly but a glimpse of something hidden, Sarah Chen wiped blood from her mouth, smiled, started her forms again from the beginning. The queen's mandibles spread in an expression no human would recognize, but Kayla knew it. She'd seen it once before when Zirazul had discovered the traitor in her own council. Not anger, not amusement, recognition. "Clear my schedule," the queen said softly. "I will meet this fragile creature." The chamber door hissed open under Zirazul's override command. Standard gravity bled out. 5 times Earth's standard rushed in to fill the corridor, and Kayla's knees nearly buckled before her armor's compensators engaged. The queen walked forward into gravity that could crush titanium. She never slowed. Sarah Chen turned toward the sound, her eyes widening as 9 feet of apex predator entered her training space. To her credit, she didn't scream, didn't run, just stood there, swaying, bleeding, soaked in sweat. I was already freezing in the chamber's recycled air. "You are not supposed to be here," Zirazul said in perfect English. Sarah's laugh came out broken. "Neither are you." The guards tensed. No one spoke to the queen like that. No one survived speaking to the queen like that. Zirazul took another step forward. The gravity didn't touch her. Centuries of evolution on a high-gravity world made this crushing force feel like home. "They said your species was fragile," the queen observed. Sarah Chen straightened as much as the gravity allowed. "They lied." For 3 seconds, the chamber held nothing but the sound of labored breathing and the low hum of gravity generators. Then Zirazul's mandibles spread wider. Good. Kayla would later mark this as the moment everything changed. Not just for Sarah Chen, not just for the human delegation, for the entire careful balance of power that had kept Earth on the periphery of galactic politics. The queen gestured to her guards. "Bring her to my personal training hall. If she survives the walk, we have much to discuss." Sarah took 1 step forward. Her legs buckled. She caught herself, bleeding hands leaving prints on the floor. "I'll survive," she said. And somehow, against physics and probability, and every report the Threxian intelligence services had compiled about human limitations, Kayla believed her. The queen turned to leave, paused. "Lieutenant Voss, Your Majesty?" "And increase security around the human quarters." "To protect them, Your Majesty?" Zirazul's 3 eyes glittered. "To protect everyone else." The words hung in the air like a prophecy as the queen swept from the chamber, her guards forming around her. Kayla remained at the viewport, watching Sarah Chen force herself through one more form, then another, each movement an act of defiance against gravity and expectation. In the distance, alarm bells began to sound. Someone had noticed the queen's deviation from schedule. Within hours, the entire ship would know something had happened. Within days, the Empire would hear rumors, but standing there, watching a human woman refuse to break under 5 times her world's gravity, Kayla understood that rumors would be the least of anyone's concerns. Sarah Chen collapsed again. This time she stayed down for almost a minute. Then her fingers curled, her arms tensed. And she rose. The walk to the Queen's personal training hall took 17 minutes. It should have taken 4. Sarah Chen refused the gravity assistance harness 3 times before Kayla simply ordered it attached. Even then, the human kept trying to support her own weight, her pride apparently more durable than her skeleton. "You're insane," Kayla muttered as Sarah stumbled again, the harness catching her before she face-planted into the corridor wall. "Probably," Sarah agreed, her voice raw. "But I'm tired of being the fragile one." Every warrior stopped to stare. Word traveled fast on a dreadnought. By now, half the ship knew that Queen Zirazul had personally retrieved a human from an unauthorized training session. The other half would know within the hour. The Queen's training hall occupied an entire deck near the ship's core. As they approached, Kayla felt her skin prickle with proximity to concentrated power. The door was solid durasteel, 20 feet tall, engraved with the names of every warrior who died in the Queen's service. Thousands of names. Hundreds of battles. A history written in memorial and blood. The door opened without Kayla touching it. Inside, the gravity hit like a physical blow. 6 times Earth standard in the outer ring, 7 times in the center. The chamber stretched 100 meters across, its walls lined with weapons from 100 conquered worlds. At the far end, on a raised platform where the gravity peaked at 8 times standard, Queen Zirazul waited. She'd removed her ceremonial armor. What remained was the body of a warrior honed by a lifetime of combat on a world where gravity crushed the weak before they could draw their first breath. Muscle wrapped around exoskeleton, each movement precise and lethal. Sarah Chen's harness released her at the chamber's edge. The human swayed, caught herself, stood. "Come," the queen commanded. It took Sarah 5 minutes to cross the outer ring. By the time she reached the center platform's base, blood leaked from her nose. Her hands shook so badly she couldn't control them, but she climbed. Hand over hand, using the platform's handholds, she dragged herself into 8 times Earth gravity. She made it 3 feet onto the platform before her body quit. Just stopped. Shut down like a machine that had exceeded every safety parameter. Zirazul descended from her observation post. In 8 times gravity, she moved like she was underwater, slow but unstoppable. She crouched beside Sarah's collapsed form. Sarah's lips moved. No sound came out. Zirazul waited. She could wait longer than stars could burn. Finally, Sarah found her voice. Because they said I couldn't. Who? Everyone. Sarah's laugh came out as a cough. The delegation. My own people. Stay in your quarters, Sarah. Don't challenge the Threxians, Sarah. Remember, you're representing a fragile species, Sarah. She turned her head, meeting the queen's 3 eyes with her 2. I'm done being fragile. Zirazul's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. You train in gravity that should kill you. Why not use your species' strengths, your flexibility, your endurance, your ability to survive on worlds we would find inhospitable? Because those aren't the strengths that matter here. Sarah pushed herself up on one elbow, a motion that looked like it cost years of her life. You respect power, so I'm becoming powerful. You're becoming dead. Maybe. Sarah collapsed back down. But I'll be dead trying to be more than what they expect. Silence filled the chamber. Somewhere in the distance, Kayla heard the ship's engines, the pulse of power that drove the eternal mandate between stars. She'd served on this vessel for 6 years. She'd never heard the queen go this long without speaking. Zirazul stood, towering over Sarah's prone form. Your delegation leader, Ambassador Marcus Wells. He knows you'd do this? No. He would stop you if he knew. Yes, because he believes you're fragile. Sarah's silence was answer enough. The queen turned to Kayla. Lieutenant, inform Ambassador Wells that Junior Attaché Chen has been reassigned to my personal staff, effective immediately. Your Majesty, the diplomatic protocols are my concern, not yours. Zirazul's tone didn't change. It didn't need to. The human delegation keeps their people soft, controlled. They present us with diplomats who smile and concede and never show their teeth. She looked down at Sarah. This one has teeth. I want to see what else she's hiding. The ambassador will protest. Let him. The queen's mandibles spread in that unsettling expression again, and when he does, ask him why he's so afraid of us seeing what his people can become. Because that was the question, wasn't it? The human delegation had been aboard for 3 months, negotiating trade agreements and cultural exchanges. Always polite, always agreeable, always careful to emphasize how much they needed Threxian protection, how grateful they were for the Empire's willingness to consider Earth for partnership status. What if it was all theater? What if every smile, every concession, every careful demonstration of human fragility was a lie designed to make the Empire lower its guard? What if Sarah Chen wasn't an anomaly, but a preview? It will be done, Your Majesty, Kayla said quietly. Zirazul gestured, and 2 of her personal guards entered. They carried a medical pod calibrated for multi-species use. Take her to the regeneration chambers. Full cellular repair. I want her functional by morning. As the guards lifted Sarah's unconscious form, the queen added, And Lieutenant, increase surveillance on all human quarters. I want to know if any others are training in secret. I want to know what they eat, what they say in private, what they dream about when they think no one is watching. You suspect infiltration? I suspect misdirection. The queen turned back to her observation. The queen turned back to her observation post, dismissing Kayla with her posture, and I suspect we've drastically underestimated what humans are capable of when they stop pretending to need our protection. She'd been present when the human delegation first arrived, had watched them stumble in the higher corridors, request environmental adjustments, apologize for their species limitations, all while Sarah Chen was somewhere in the bowels of the ship, teaching herself to survive in gravity that should have pulverized her organs. The regeneration chambers hummed as the medical pod integrated with the ship's systems. Sarah's vital signs appeared on the nearest display. Weak but stable. The pod was already working, flooding her system with cellular regenerators that would rebuild the microfractures in her bones, repair the muscle tears, restore what her training had destroyed. By morning, she'd be whole again, and then the real training would begin. Kayla accessed the ship's surveillance network, pulling up footage of Sarah's previous unauthorized sessions. The timestamp showed a pattern. Every night cycle for the past 7 weeks, Sarah had been sneaking into gravity chambers, starting at 2 times Earth's standard, working up gradually, methodically, pushing her limits. 7 weeks of secret training. 7 weeks of breaking herself down and rebuilding stronger. 7 weeks while the human delegation projected nothing but fragility and dependence. The surveillance footage showed something else too. Sarah wasn't sloppy. She knew where the cameras were, moved in their blind spots when possible. She'd hacked the chamber access codes using techniques that should have been beyond a civilian linguist. Her training forms showed martial discipline that didn't match her diplomatic cover. Kyla sent the report to the Queen's private terminal. Within seconds, a response came back. 3 words that sent ice down Kayla's spine. Find the others. Because if Sarah Chen was this good at hiding what she was, how many other humans were doing the same in here? How many of the smiling diplomats and grateful supplicants were warriors in disguise waiting for the right moment to show their teeth? The medical pod chimed. Sarah's eyes opened, locked onto Kayla with an awareness that shouldn't have been possible this soon after regeneration. How long? Sarah asked. 6 hours. You'll be released in 3 more. Then, just as Kayla turned to leave, thank you. For what? Not sounding the alarm? When you found me in the chamber. You could have. But you didn't. Why do you think I didn't? Sarah's smile was small but genuine. Because you're tired of pretending too. The door closed before Kayla could respond. But as she walked back to her post, she couldn't shake the feeling that Sarah Chen had seen something in her that she'd been hiding even from herself. The feeling that maybe humans weren't the only ones wearing masks aboard the Eternal Mandate. Her communicator chirped. Ambassador Wells's voice came through, tight with barely controlled panic. Lieutenant Voss, I'm told you escorted Attaché Chen to the Queen's personal quarters. I demand an immediate explanation. Direct all inquiries to Her Majesty? Kayla interrupted. Protocol violation. She didn't care. Junior Attaché Chen is now under the Queen's authority. That's not... You can't just... Kayla terminated the connection. She'd face consequences later. Right now, she had orders. Find the others. Discover how deep the deception went. She accessed the personnel files of the human delegation. 15 members total. Linguists, cultural specialists, trade negotiators. All civilian. All carefully selected to appear non-threatening. All potentially hiding what Sarah Chen had hidden. The ship's alarm system chimed softly. Unauthorized access attempt in the cargo bay. Kayla's tactical display lit up, showing a heat signature in a section that should have been empty. Human-sized. Moving with purpose. Attempting to bypass security on a weapons locker. Kayla drew her sidearm and ran. If the Queen was right, if this was all an elaborate deception, then humanity had just made the worst mistake in their short galactic existence, because the Threxian Empire didn't forgive infiltration, and Queen Jirasul never forgot betrayal. The cargo bay door hissed open under Kayla's override command. She entered with weapon raised, targeting systems painting the darkness with threat indicators. The heat signature had vanished, but she'd seen enough combat to know when she was being watched. I know you're here, she called out. Show yourself. Queen's authority, not from where she expected, behind her. Kayla spun, finger on the trigger, and stopped. The human was young, male, maybe 20 Earth years. His delegation file listed him as David Park, junior trade analyst. His current position, crouched atop a cargo container 8 feet high, spoke of acrobatic ability that should have been impossible in Threxian standard gravity. Don't shoot, he said calmly. Too calmly. I'm authorized. Authorized to break into weapons lockers? Authorized to test security protocols? David dropped from the container, landed in a combat crouch, rose smoothly. In 1.2 Earth gravities, the movement should have been awkward. Instead, it looked practiced. Your system has 17 vulnerabilities. I've documented them all. Kayla kept her weapon trained. Show me your authorization. David pulled a datapad from his jacket, tossed it to her. She caught it one-handed, scanned the contents. It was signed by Queen Jirasul herself. Dated 3 weeks ago. What is this? Kayla demanded. A job offer. David's smile didn't reach his eyes. The Queen suspected your security had gaps. I'm good at finding gaps. She pays better than the human delegation. You're a spy. I'm a consultant. David tilted his head. But if you want to arrest me, go ahead. The Queen will have you cleaning waste recyclers by morning. The authorization was genuine. She could verify the encryption keys. But 3 weeks ago? 3 weeks before Sarah Chen's discovery? How long has the Queen known? She asked quietly. Known what? That humans aren't what you pretend to be. David's expression shifted. The casual confidence cracked, revealing something harder underneath. Longer than you'd think. Shorter than you'd fear. He retrieved his datapad. We're not here to conquer, if that's what you're worried about. We're here to survive. And survival means being more useful than we are threatening. Sarah Chen wasn't supposed to be found. David's jaw tightened. She went off script. Started training beyond the parameters. The Queen finding her was unfortunate timing. Or perfect timing, Kayla said. Depending on perspective. Human and Threxian. Masks lowering. Truth emerging from careful deception. What happens now? David asked. Kayla thought about Sarah Chen and the medical pod, about the Queen's orders to find the others, about 7 weeks of secret training and 3 weeks of secret employment, and ancestors knew how many other secrets waiting to surface. Now, she holstered her weapon. Now we see if your species is as smart as you think you are, because the Threxian Empire had conquered 47 species, not through strength alone. Through knowing when to fight and when to fold. Through recognizing potential threats before they became existential ones. If humanity could be useful, they'd be allowed to survive. If they proved treacherous, they'd be eliminated before they left the star system. And Sarah Chen, training in 5 times gravity, refusing to stay fragile. She'd just become the test case for her entire species' future. The cargo bay door opened. Queen Zira Sul stood in the entrance, flanked by her guards. Lieutenant Voss, she said. How convenient to find you both here. The Queen's 3 eyes swept over them with the weight of centuries. Come, we have much to discuss about humanity's future in my empire. She turned and walked away, expecting to be followed. They followed. Because when Queen Zira Sul gave a command, the universe obeyed. The question was whether the universe would survive what came next. The Queen's war room occupied the heart of the Eternal Mandate, a chamber where gravity, atmosphere, and temperature could be adjusted to accommodate any species in the Empire's databases. Currently, it was set to Threxian standard, 1.2 Earth gravities, 30 degrees Celsius, 60% humidity. Uncomfortable for humans, tolerable for the properly motivated. Sarah Chen was already there. She stood at attention beside the tactical display, her regenerated body showing no signs of the damage she'd inflicted during training. The medical pod had done its work. But her eyes carried the weight of someone who understood exactly how precarious her position had become. Kayla and David entered together. Sarah's expression flickered with recognition when she saw David, then smoothed back to neutral. Fast. Professional. Another tell that she was far more than a junior cultural attaché. Ambassador Marcus Wells sat in a chair designed for beings twice his size, looking small and old and afraid. His carefully maintained diplomatic composure had cracked somewhere between being summoned to the war room and realizing that 2 members of his delegation had been conducting unauthorized activities. Everyone is here, Queen Zira Sul said. She didn't sit. Threxians rarely sat. Their physiology made standing more natural. Good. We can stop pretending now. Wells opened his mouth. The Queen raised one clawed hand, and he closed it. Ambassador, I have reviewed the cultural exchange protocols your delegation proposed. Very thorough, very careful, very focused on keeping your people in controlled environments where we could observe you safely. Zira Sul gestured to the tactical display. It lit up with surveillance footage. Sara training. 3 other humans engaged in activities that didn't match their cover identities. What I find interesting is how badly your people fail to follow these protocols. Your Majesty, I can explain. No, you cannot. The Queen's mandibles clicked. 'Cause you don't know. That's the amusing part. Your own delegation is running operations you're not cleared for. Wells turned to Sarah and David. Is this true? Neither answered. Zira Sul circled the tactical display. Attaché Chen. When did you begin your unauthorized training? 7 weeks ago, Your Majesty. And you thought you could hide it? Sarah's jaw tightened. No, Your Majesty, I thought I could delay discovery long enough to prove a point.
Which was?
That humans can adapt to your standards. That we're not the fragile creatures our reports suggest. The Queen stopped circling. And you, Mr. Four Circling? Park. When did I hire you?
3 weeks ago? To audit your security systems? Did Ambassador Wells authorize this employment?
No, Your Majesty.
This is outrageous. These are civilians under my authority. Shirazal interrupted.
The question is whose? Silence crashed through the war room. Kayla's hand drifted toward her sidearm. If this was a military infiltration, if Earth had sent soldiers disguised as diplomats, the response would be immediate and lethal. The Empire didn't tolerate deception. Not military, Sarah said quietly. Private initiative. Explain. Earth's governments know what we are. Fragile. New to the galactic stage. Vulnerable. The official position is cooperation. Integration. Hope that the Empire will find us useful enough to protect. Her hands clenched. Some of us aren't content with that plan, so you infiltrated your own delegation. We volunteered for the delegation, David corrected. We met the civilian requirements. We have the skills listed in our files, but we also have other skills. Skills Earth's government doesn't want you to see yet, because they fear we'll see you as threats, Zirasol said. Crush you before you become powerful. Yes. The Queen's laugh was like grinding stone. Wise of them. So instead you hide your capabilities. You appear weak. Grateful. Non-threatening. She turned to Wells. Tell me, Ambassador, how many members of your delegation are part of this private initiative? Wells had gone pale. I don't know. Count them, Lieutenant Voss. Kayla accessed the surveillance data she'd been compiling. 7 out of 15 show skills inconsistent with their cover identities. 4 confirmed. 3 probable. Zirasol's mandibles spread. Impressive operational security. Sloppy execution. Attaché Chen's discovery exposed the entire network. Sarah flinched. I pushed too hard. Got impatient. You got discovered, the Queen corrected. There's a difference. She gestured to the tactical display. It shifted, showing a map of known space. Earth's system glowed at the edge, small and isolated. Here's what I know. Humans are weak by our standards. Your gravity is low. Your atmosphere is rich. Your world is paradise compared to most inhabited planets. You should be conquered within a decade of achieving faster-than-light travel. She tapped a claw against the display. But you're not. Despite being surrounded by species that could destroy you, despite having technology centuries behind the galactic standard, despite every disadvantage, you're still independent. Why? Because we've been careful. We've negotiated. Your linguists are exceptional. Your cultural analysts understand alien psychology better than species that have been traveling space for millennia. Your traders find opportunities others miss. You make yourselves indispensable while appearing harmless. She turned back to Sarah. Until this one decided to stop appearing harmless. Permission to speak freely, Your Majesty? Granted and tired of us being the species that survives by being useful. I want us to be the species that survives because we're strong. Strength isn't survival, Zirazul said. I've watched strong species burn themselves out. Pride. Arrogance. Overconfidence. They challenged the Empire and died. She moved closer to Sarah. Even in the adjusted gravity, the size difference was dramatic. Survival is adaptation. It's being what your environment requires. Your people understand this instinctively. They've survived on Earth by being adaptable. They're surviving in space the same way, by pretending to be weak, by being smart enough to recognize when strength is weakness. The Queen's center eye fixed on Sarah. But I see your point. There's a difference between strategic deception and permanent limitation. If humans are capable of more, hiding that capability forever creates its own vulnerabilities. She turned to the tactical display, pulled up new data. I've reviewed your training logs, Attaché Chen. 7 weeks. Progressive overload. Proper recovery protocols. You didn't just throw yourself into high gravity and hope for the best. You studied. Planned. Executed with discipline. I'm a quick learner, Your Majesty. You're trained. Zirasol zoomed in on specific footage. Those combat forms. I've seen them before. Not human martial arts. Threxian close-quarters combat. Modified for lower gravity, but the principles are identical. Where did you learn them? Sarah's silence lasted 3 seconds too long. David spoke instead. From me. I learned from observation during the first month. Dated the forms, taught Sarah. 1 month of observation, Girasol said. And you managed to decode a combat system that takes Threxian warriors years to master. I told you, I'm good at finding gaps. The Queen's laugh was genuine this time. You're spies. Both of you. Not for Earth's government. For something else. A faction. A group. An organization that believes humans need to be stronger than your official position suggests.
We're insurance?
Against what? Against the day when being useful isn't enough. When the Empire decides Earth is more trouble than it's worth. When we need to be more than clever diplomats with soft gravity and breathable air. The ambassador looked like he'd aged 10 years. This was information he genuinely didn't have. Whatever Sarah and David represented, it operated beyond Earth's official chain of command, which meant humanity was more complicated than the Empire had assessed.
More dangerous?
And more interesting. Xerasol returned to her observation post. Here's my decision. Attaché Chen, you will continue your training, under my supervision. In my facilities, you will be pushed beyond what you thought possible. If you survive, you will become the first human certified in Threxian combat doctrine. Your Majesty, Mr. Park, you will continue your security audits. You will also begin training with my intelligence operatives. If you're as good at finding gaps as you claim, I want you finding them in my enemy's systems, not mine. David bowed. It would be an honor. The rest of your private initiative will identify themselves within 24 hours. They will be offered similar positions, training. Integration, real roles where their hidden skills can be properly utilized. Wells stood again. Your Majesty, this circumvents all diplomatic protocols. Protocols exist to manage known variables, Xerasol said. Your delegation has introduced unknown variables. I'm adapting. You should too, she gestured dismissively. You're free to report this to Earth's government. Tell them I've poached your people. Tell them I'm interfering with diplomatic norms. See if they care more about protocol or about having their citizens trained to Empire standards. The ambassador's expression shifted as he processed the implications. Earth's government wouldn't care. They'd be thrilled. Their people, trained by the Empire's best, returning home with knowledge and skills that would advance humanity's capabilities by decades. This wasn't a threat. It was an opportunity wrapped in ultimatum. You're recruiting us? Sarah said slowly. I'm testing you, Xerasol corrected, to see if humans are worth the investment. You want to be strong? Prove you can handle strength. You want respect? Earn it. You want to be more than the fragile species we protect out of charity? Then stop hiding your teeth and learn to bite. She brought up footage of Sarah's training again, the moment when she'd collapsed under 5 times gravity. The moment when she'd risen anyway. That moment. When your body quit and your will continued. That's what caught my attention. Not your strength. Your refusal to accept limitation. The Queen's 3 eyes swept across all of them. The Empire was built by species that refused to accept limitation. If humanity has that quality, you belong among us. If you don't, you'll wash out of training and return to being useful diplomats. And if we succeed? David asked. Xerasol's mandibles spread in that predatory expression. Then we'll see if 47 conquered species needs to become 48, or if humanity earns something rarer than conquest. What's rarer than conquest? Sarah asked. Partnership. The word hung in the air like a detonation. The Threxian Empire had vassals. It had subjects. It had client species and protectorates and 100 different terms for controlled populations. It had never had partners. Training begins at dawn cycle, the Queen continued. Lieutenant Voss will be your primary instructor. She'll teach you what I can't. The difference between survival and victory. The difference between strength and wisdom. The difference between being dangerous and being trusted with danger. Kyla snapped to attention. Your Majesty, I'm not qualified to train. You're qualified to recognize potential? You saw it in Attaché Chen when you could have sounded the alarm. You saw it in Mr. Park when you could have shot him. Xerasol's center eye fixed on Kayla, and you're tired of pretending too. I've watched you, Lieutenant. Following orders, maintaining protocols. Never questioning, never challenging. You're competent. Completely wasted on guard duty. Bella felt something crack inside her chest. A wall she'd built, a role she'd accepted, the quiet resignation of someone who'd stopped believing they could be more. Train them, the Queen commanded. Make them worthy. and maybe you'll remember why you joined my service in the first place." The tactical display shut down. The war room's lights brightened. "Dismissed," Sirazul said. "Except you, Ambassador Wells. You and I need to discuss how to explain this to Earth's government in a way that doesn't start a war." Kayla, Sarah, and David filed out. The guards closed the door behind them, sealing Wells inside with the Queen. In the corridor, the three of them stood in silence. Finally, David spoke. "Well, that went better than expected. We just got drafted into the Threxian military," Sarah said.
We got invited, Kayla corrected.
She looked at the two humans. Young, determined, completely out of their depth. Don't misunderstand what just happened. The Queen doesn't make offers. She identifies assets and acquires them. You're now her assets. If you fail, you'll be discarded. If you succeed, you'll be used. There's no third option. Sounds familiar, Sarah said quietly. That's what Earth's been. An asset. Something to be used or discarded based on utility. And now you have the chance to change that, Kayla said. If you survive training, will we? David asked. Kayla started walking toward the training decks. I don't know. The Queen's never tried to train humans before. The protocols were designed for species with exoskeletons and redundant organs. You might die in the first week. Encouraging, Sarah muttered. I'm not here to encourage you. I'm here to forge you into something the Empire can use. Kayla stopped, turned. But understand this. If you succeed, if you become what the Queen envisions, you'll change how the Empire sees humanity. Not as fragile refugees seeking protection, as equals who earned their place. Or as threats who need to be eliminated, David said. That too. Kayla resumed walking. Welcome to the knife's edge. Try not to fall off. Behind them, raised voices leaked through the war room door. Wells and the Queen, arguing about protocols and sovereignty and a dozen things that no longer mattered, because the decision had been made. Humanity had been hiding its teeth. Now the Empire wanted to see them, sharpen them, test them. And somewhere in the gap between useful and threatening, between partner and prey, Earth's future would be determined. Sarah Chen fell into step beside Kayla. Question. Ask. When you found me in the gravity chamber, you could have reported me immediately. Why didn't you? Kayla considered the question. The real answer, the one she'd been avoiding since that moment in the observation corridor. Because I was jealous, she said finally. I've served the Empire for 6 years, followed every order, never questioned my place. And there you were, a human who'd been aboard for 3 months, refusing to accept the limitations everyone imposed on you. She glanced at Sarah. You reminded me of who I used to be. Before I learned that conformity is survival. And now? Now the Queen's given me permission to stop conforming. Kayla's mandibles clicked in dark amusement. Which might be the most dangerous thing that's happened today. They reached the training deck entrance. The door slid open, revealing equipment designed to break bodies and rebuild them stronger. Gravity chambers. Endurance courses that had killed the weak and forged the strong. Dawn cycle is 6 hours away, Kayla said. I suggest you use them to rest, because once training starts, rest becomes a luxury you'll forget you ever had. We'll be ready, Sarah said. Kayla's laugh was bitter. No, but you'll show up anyway. That's what matters. She walked into the training deck, leaving the humans in the corridor. Behind her, she heard Sarah whisper to David, We can do this. David's response, We have to. For everyone back home. But something in her chest unclenched, something that had been tight for 6 years. Because maybe, just maybe, training humans to be strong wouldn't just change how the Empire saw them. Maybe it would change how she saw herself. The training deck's gravity adjusted under her command. 2 times standard. Then 3, then 4. She stepped into the center of the chamber, feeling the weight settle onto her frame. Heavy. Crushing. Exactly as brutal as it should be. Then she began her forms. The same forms she'd taught herself years ago, before conformity became her armor. Before following orders became easier than following her own judgment. 6 hours until dawn cycle. 6 hours to remember who she'd been before the Empire ground her edges smooth. 6 hours to become someone worthy of training warriors instead of guarding corridors. The gravity increased to 5 times standard. Kayla didn't slow. Somewhere in the ship, Sarah Chen was probably doing the same thing. Pushing limits. refusing to quit, becoming more than she'd been yesterday.
And for the first time in 6 years, Lieutenant Kayla Voss smiled as she trained, because tomorrow, everything would change. For humanity. For the Empire. For everyone who'd ever been told they couldn't be more than what others expected. The smile faded as the gravity hit 6 times standard, but the determination remained. Dawn's cycle couldn't come fast enough.